So you are now broadcasting. But do we have any sound?
It's right here. It's on the side. I had to meet you.
I see your sound. It's, we switched computers.
Oh, I've always put these because.
Yeah. All right, Europe and everywhere else. I don't get a little.
Is it sound from us?
The sound is from us. Yeah. It's delayed, so you guys are going to have to turn your sound off.
That's correct.
Yeah. Name tags, ping up here. I'm seeing nothing. Where's your webcam?
So,
We got my NSA
Privacy Bureau.
That's how we roll it.
Yes, he has the security issues. Again. Stop hacking Mexicans.
yes.
We have a 4-port yellow one up here that folks can use too.
Oh, okay. Comments from across the way that they hear audio and video.
Yes, audio and video.
Chat.
Oh, hey, Chat.
Yeah. It's probably there to say.
That's online.
You just now heard me go, yes, audio and video. You got one more. I don't. Yeah, we're over there.
When you power anywhere else, up there. Well, we're going to have to, that's what I'm trying to do now, is to pull up the agenda list. Then, who is first to go? Does anybody know?
You got the agenda?
It's me. I'm pulling it up.
You should have a,
Yeah,
have a sheet for you to look at.
yeah, that'd be nice.
I'm gonna take that out so that we can share power. Okay?
No problem.
I have power right as well.
What's that? Mine's here. $20 name tag. It's asked it.
And more power is needed in this room.
You're Jason? Hi, John.
Oh my God, so Eichster is the first one to go.
How do I get through? Dude.
Gentlemen?
Oh, no, I'm
You good?
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you as well. What's that you can fill out? Name tag.
All right. Out here, I mean, that's
All right.
Maybe. Aha.
All right, so the kickoff is me, introduction and welcome. And then we go with Eichster, which means he's remote. And
Oh, okay. Let me see.
The delay is about
That's one hell.
LinkedIn.
Just that easy.
You got nothing to say. True. Well,
A little extra here. We're about ready
there we go.
for those observing, but not quite. Hang in with us.
You don't have to. Oh, come on. Kill me.
Got all this.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess. Okay. I was assisted in getting some.
So, are you ready?
We don't have extra.
No, I don't think I.
Well, ready is relative. I get horrible stage fright, so.
Okay. Well, then
Just make fun of me.
I was just gonna say, would hearing help? Cause
yeah.
No problem with that. Yeah, there we go. It's actually true. I can see my handshake.
You're among.
So, wait a second. If we don't get extra, does that mean I get the full 3 hours? Please. For an update.
So, Ikester, if you are out there watching, send me your phone number on my Cardinal Health email so I can call and figure out how to coordinate your remote.
Introduction, Thomas?
Yes, we are now at introduction and welcome. Thank you. How many did we get? 4, 8, 12. Siggy is not here.
Somebody owes me money.
It looks like we have 14 here and missing Siggy, so that's not bad. 15. We have 11 viewers around the world. So welcome to PlanetsCON 2016. I hope that's yeah, Alpha. Yeah. And hopefully you have had it as far as we've had here already last night. There is lots of craft beer, lots of pizza, and lots of good talk about. I know that you guys in Europe said was the best part of the whole thing. So I think we probably agree with you. Getting together and seeing everybody putting names to screen names was a good experience for us. So I am going to do us. So I'm going to ask your name, screen name. Some of us don't want to provide those together. That's all right. But what is your favorite thing about Planets New, about talking about Planets New, about Planets New, about rediscovering planets, anything in that nature? Been killed by any of my opponents, so it helps me to be. Those of you that are time, you might consider putting your real name out there and seeing how it changes your behavior. Planets New, I rediscovered because kind of it's the old guy chat. You know, you get with your old friends and you would about, you know, the stuff you did when you were in school and college, and VGA Planets would always come up, and every time it did, then I'd go on the internet to see, you know, what's going on with this. Is anything going on? And I would discover, yeah, you know, there are still some VBSs out there running. VGA Planet was like next generation VGA, and then finally, recently, 3 or 4 years ago, PlanetsCON, a hosted solution. It was easy. Joel.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Okay. God, that time flies. 6 years ago. When I was 12. So that's my rediscovery of VGA. I'm gonna, because everybody just kind of traipses up here, starting with you, and then going in a line left to right me across each one. Okay, I'll clear this out for you. So you know, first, Maximus.
Yeah, I guess I was closest. Greetings to my friends across the pond. It's great to be here. Thinking about your question, Tom, and I've been playing since the early 90s, and I remember just getting together, a couple friends of mine and I, and just playing all night on a single computer. And I like the investment. I like, you know, the planning and the feeling of accomplishment, even if you lose. But what I like about PlanetsCON is the community. It's just great to see all the planets, non-planets related stuff that gets kind of fun sometimes. A lot of the personalities, and it's an interesting place to be. You know, he had a great comment, and you know, a year ago about kind of the gem we have in this community, and just the high level of thinking, of intellect, of strategy, and just some of the conversations that we can't have many other places. So that's what I value about Planets.
David? At each row.
Yeah. Hi, I'm David Sanchez, also known as Bond Servant, Bond, and great to be here. It's exciting. Like I said, I had a fantastic time last night. Looking forward to today, and played myself also since the early 90s, quite active. Mostly just friends and family, and took the and my brothers mentioned there was something called PlanetsCON, and that was about 5 years, 9 months. So been quite active since then, and it's a lot of fun. And so again, looking forward to today. And it was, and everyone here seems super talked to, so it's been fun.
All rise.
Balls. My real name is I was promised a tiara, and it did not show up this morning. I'm kind of disappointed about that. But I'm playing VGA Planets since the early days. Played it offline on a server with 2 brothers who taught me the ins and outs of it. I love playing with you guys on new web servers over the years, but this is the first time I really came back to it since the 90s. I like it because it provides an outlet where you can be creative and use the detail for good. Sometimes I like to micromanage things, pay attention to details that other people don't say are important. In Planets, all of those details are critical, and it's just great. Thank you guys.
Name's Rufus Arend. I used to go by moniker RA, Raw Sun God, right? Not very original since it's my initials as well.
Not to be confused with the other Ra.
Yeah, but what happened, someone poached my username somewhere along the way, and I ended up having to change it. So now I'm RAW. Anyway, I've been on playing also since the early 90s. Played pretty steadily until the late 90s. I was 4 times longer than any other game that held my attention. But what I like about PlanetsCON is the user interface. Back when I started in on Planet, You brought out the pencil and paper and calculator and figured out your own Pythagorean theorem on it. And same way with multiple jumps where you wanted to end up at a planet and maximize what your cobalt was getting in field. I had to calculate them all by hand. So anyway, I like the Planet's new community, and I'm getting back into the game.
Hi, I'm Batman, also known as Norm McNabb. I'm another old timer. Been playing since the early '90s. I like the diplomacy of the game, talking to others. Let's see. I usually play a lot of games. I get burned out, stay off for a few and always come back.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry McCarthy, also Larry McCarthy, screen name. I've been playing since the 90s. Enjoy the game, love it, love the community, love fighting with y'all. Yeah. Every day, so I started a little thing, play every day. So if you ever get a chance to get in one of the games I host, love to see you there.
Jay's there. I'm Joel. You can call me Jay if you'd like. What do I like most about PlanetsCON? I feel like I'm supposed to say I'm an old timer, but I'm not. I never really played Planets in the 90s. I knew it existed, right? Found the CS somewhere. Tried to play it with my friends. We were like 6th grade. And it wasn't going to hold our interest. But all throughout high school, throughout college, Planets 4, Planets 3, I always seemed like it was a good thing to try. It seemed like there was something. I never got anyone interested in it. Was so excited one day to be Googling it. I think what I like about it is that micromanaging aspect. It can fill a lot of needs, right? I have spreadsheets. In online gaming worlds, you can get some pretty nasty communities. And generally speaking, I think this is a pretty high quality bunch. I'm happy to be here.
I'm Kelmain. I'm from Washington, D.C. I also have been playing since the early 90s. Repeat all of the qualities that the game has for me that everybody else has. It is a really good balance between the aspects of diplomacy and economies. It's just a game that has hit that sweet spot for me that that no other type of game, shooters or strategy game. And so I have played for a few years, taken a few years off, and come back over and over again over the decades. And I expect that as long as the community stays in play and until I'm no longer here to play.
Well, I'm Gunnar, otherwise known as John Simpson. I get horrible stage fright, and yet here I am in a room full of friends. We have stage fright in front of you guys. I know you all. I mean, granted, I've only played games with or against one or two of you, but you know, we've all been through the same feuds, the same glorious discussions of tactics, the same Confederate flag thread. We've suffered through it all together. And yet I know also, at least most of us, we're introverts. We keep to ourselves. Now, there's a few of us that aren't. They're offensively energetic in the morning, for example, which, you know, that's fine. But most of us, we keep to ourselves. We're the sort of person who, well, yes, we Microsoft Excel. We think it's a marvelous invention. And this is one of the few places, this being Planet's new, but also here at the con, where we can get it safe because we're with our own people. And there's nothing else like that. It's glorious. It's wonderful. And anyway, I could go on for hours, and I will a little while, but that's what I wanted to say.
What happened this week? Anything significant?
Oh, yes, the important, thank you for the reminder, otherwise I'd get killed when I get back. So I just got married a week ago. I'm on my... And Julie is the best ever because she let me come to PlanetsCON on my honeymoon, is here. We're excited about it. So.
Well, hello, folks. Hello over the other side of the Atlantic. My name's Eric Merchant. I'm also known as Lord Pollux at New Space. Really, I have to say that I'm very excited about being here and meeting everybody here today, and can't stress how this experience has been. Last night, I made a lot of good friends, sampled a lot of great beer, and looking forward to more of that today. But Planets has been a mainstay in my gaming life since it came out, and it has been it's like the space brilliant, playing against 11 people and having high quality players like we have in our community here. It just makes it addicting beyond addiction level is incredible. Every day my turns run, I can't wait to see what happened and immediately start to communicate with you folks overseas or my compadres who plotting or backstabbing or coordinating some brilliant plans, but always, 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 I look forward to the day. And it's because this game has been so great. So, thanks to Tim, if you're watching, I appreciate the effort you made to get this game started, and it's really grown. I see being a real positive gaming force for a long time to come. So, welcome. I hope to see you all at the next convention. Please come.
Okay. Hi. Tom said I'm supposed to introduce myself. I am wife of Gunnar. I have a screen name, so I'm Celuge. I haven't played anything yet. So. Celuge? Celuge. Yeah. I haven't played anything yet, but I'm wife of Gunnar. Also. Hi.
Good morning, everybody. My name's John Sanchez, Dragon DJ. First of all, we haven't done it. Let's give a hand to Tom for putting this together. Hello, everybody from the other side of the pond. I started actually playing on, if anybody remembers, that old server Prodigy. It was a Star Warrior type of game, and there was thousands playing it, but they were pretty close net. Well, it went under, so the whole Prodigy thing did, so the game did. We were searching around, and we came across and that was in the 80s, this Planet. So we started several dozen to about 100 of us moved over and started playing Planets then. When we found in the 90s, that was pretty exciting. My wife gets really frustrated with me playing the circle game. Are you on that laptop again? And it was kind of exciting for me because now I don't have star maps taped to the wall, and notebooks full, and going through them and have notes all over. I'm excited. She likes that part of it, but just not the time up to it. But it has been a blast meeting everybody. Last night was really fun. Some faces, the names, which I'll forget names constantly. But thank you, Tom, again, and I look forward to today. And talk to you guys later.
My name is Zach, or Centurion Prime. I haven't been active too much the last 6 to 9 months, but been playing since 93. Met Steve in 99. He's Liquid Venom, and introduced him to the game, and we would play together for some time until that they wouldn't play the Win client anymore. So that fell off for a bit, and then sort of in a small fit of depression, I think in 2011, I was like, oh man, whatever happened to Planets? Did a Google search, It's new and was just elated, and so we started playing that again. And it's just I just enjoy. We usually talk about turns and who's doing what and how we're going to kick somebody or something. And so I just enjoy the social aspect of that, and I think it's great that now that it's web-based, it's pretty much client independent. And we can keep playing this in the future. So just happy about that.
Hi, my name is Liquid Venom on Planets. Like Zach said, Centurion Prime, he introduced me to the game in '99. Started playing. The nice thing about VGA Planet 99 was you had 10 people that were your friends that didn't know how to play Planets as well as you, and you could really kick their ass. The great thing about VGA Planets New is you get out there, there's thousands of players, and most of them know how to kick your ass. So it challenges you to be better, and it's definitely the community just talking and teaching and watching their turns and go, how did they beat me that badly? and figuring all that out and getting better at the game. So it's been great, love it, and continue to play it.
My screen name is Colonel Clink. Tom dragged me into this about 5 years ago, and of course he continues to win now. Occasionally someone stops him. I remember his defeat in the first Champions game, and that was a pleasure. I enjoyed the game. It's a fantasy, to escape from the daily reality, and it's remarkable how it's growing, and it's really fun to do. It's all in one. Thank you.
You're next. You made it just in time. Screen name. Yeah, hi. My screen name is Siggy, and my real name is Siggy. To the game, we used a group of friends who used to play in the 90s, and well, I didn't, as soon as I started playing and started getting into it, I got addicted. And personally, I just love a game where I can do it at my leisure, And yeah, that's it. All right, so we're going to go right into our first presentation now on the agenda. It is Ikester, but I figured out how to do that yet. So we're probably going to do a conference call, but John is going to jump off the second agenda item with him. He only has 1 hour, actually 45 minutes, and then time for questions. So we will stop the broadcast. We have to. Don't worry. John.
With me comes my lovely assistant, Julie, who may steal your computer and run the presentation.
The presentation runs from here. So
We're going to have to run it from there.
I'll just sit right here on the end so that I'm not on the screen.
You've got okay, you have a flash drive?
Yep.
Right, there you go. You might want to step in
And we also have this. But you're yeah, sorry, it's fun. These envelopes are marked confidential.
Sound effect in here? Is the sound up in the screen here?
Yes.
I don't want to. There's a.
Right. What are we? This one?
Yeah, there's only one PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Hopefully it goes to the screen.
Did anybody not get an okay?
Yeah.
Name is important.
Before I break things.
I'll leave it there.
You guys-
Do you have a chair? All right. Okay, so I'm still on camera. I can't pick my nose, right?
You are not on camera.
Oh, well, good. So I can pick. I can also read directly from my notes.
You
which
are
comes
in
handy.
front of 20 people though, so.
Well, you guys don't mind. We're all friends.
We do.
Fine. Destroy my fun.
Julie can pick your nose.
You are on video.
Oh. How about this?
So we need to share this, now, right?
Yep. Well, we don't actually have to.
There
but we
should
could.
be a way for the camera to pop down.
Where is Google? Now, this doesn't come out of my 3 hours, right?
The Chrome?
Yeah.
That's where the.
All right, let's cool this down.
You want to try this? Back to the, it's just slow, I guess. Okay, there it is. Now, over on your left, okay. So you scroll down. Oh, there it is. There it is. Top right. Right now, for 20 seconds.
Are we back?
Yeah.
You are should still be good on the.
Find out.
About 20 seconds.
In about 20 seconds, this is going to come up.
Well, where's my?
You're good.
Are we good? We're good. All right, cool. Well, as I said a couple of minutes ago, I'm Gnurf, otherwise known as John Simpson. You have frequently asked me how Gnurf, you know, is just one syllable, every word, every letter, you pronounce them just the way it's spelled. Anyway, I'm here today to talk about a couple of things. Capricorn War. Second, things that we're doing in the documentation, specifically with the host order. Those who are fortunate enough to be here got a handout. Unless you showed up late, in case you didn't get a handout. But you can come up here and grab one if you want. Yes, I'm lucky. And who are you? Oh, well, good to meet you. Everyone else got to introduce themselves at the camera. We'll get you it. Is the future of the planet's new merchant marine. There's a really amusing anecdote about that, which I won't tell you because I only have 3 hours.
1 hour.
Oh, come on. Be that way. So Capricorn, I'll be quick, I promise. So here's the deal. The war's been going on for about 8,000 turns, and strangely enough, it's not stalemated. After all this time, there is no actual stalemate. It's progressing. And I'm confident that approaching the end game, we're about to crown an emperor, a year or two max. And so here's the update. You can see clearly, this is where we were in 2015 and in 2016. Note there's progress. Now, you can see it clearly, again, 2015, 2016. Okay, moving on. I told you to be quick. About the documentation. There's an awful lot to say, and I can't say it all, so I'm going to concentrate on the work that we're doing on the host order. Oh, they don't want to listen to us out there. It's a complex document. It's one of the two main ones. We have the master ship list, which I'm going to get into ships later. So completely ignore that. With the host order, Right now, what we've got is an incredibly long document of every item known to man that happens in, and some things that aren't known to man that we can't figure out what the entry means. We've been puzzling it out, and we just have no idea what those mean in the host order. It's just step 67. We don't know what's done in step 67. It just says mix mercs, but that's what it is. It's step 67. I don't actually know it. So what we have decided to do, and when I say we, I mean me, by myself unilaterally, and everyone else is going along with it because they think I'm too, is to eliminate a lot of the stuff that most people won't ever use. Folks that don't play the campaign need to know when Empire Fighter Transfer, they don't need to know what Enlighten does. So brand new players first coming to the game are more concerned, well, what happens first? Do my ships move or do they fight? When do we hit mines? When do we not hit mines? When do those friggin' crystals go away? So what we do, and it will go up on the webpage hopefully later today, unless I get into the beer, in which case possibly tomorrow, is to create the basic, which has the, and that will be the first thing you see on the host order page. And then later, scroll down, and you will see a complete host order, which contains, so, you know, when the poor wasp picks their nose, that's where it is. And finally, and this one I'm very proud of, we're introducing a new page, which is the annotated host order. Yeah, that we know what it does, so most of them. We'll have a paragraph or so explaining exactly what happens in this step. So you want to know when Empire Fighter Transfer takes place? We can tell you, because it takes place during a step that has absolutely nothing to do with Empire Fighters. This will be on a different page, which links off host order. And host order. Again, the idea is that it's supposed to be easy to use when you first get into it. Now, which is the simple host order. Chances are there's a typo on there that I haven't seen. So just, you know, manually correct that yourself with a pen once you find it. And so that's it on the documentation. Again, quick. Now we talk about the future of the planet's new merchant marine. I have to explain a little bit about the anecdote. Tom was insisting I give a title for my talk, and I had no idea what I was going to talk about. Not a clue. I'm going to stand up here and yak for you. Yeah, however long. Look, I sped up the Capricorn War update. That's you can speed up the war, Jay. Sorry. So, long ago, there was a comedian who got storming in Ames, Iowa, or wherever, and the guy insisted on a title, and they got into a fight over the phone as to whether or not his shtick actually deserved a title, and said, it's the future of the friggin' merchant marine. And he shows up in Ames, Iowa 6 months later, no recollection of this. I think it was Gilbert Gottfried, but and there it is on the future of the American merchant marine, Gilbert Gottfried. And what he doesn't know from ships, he goes in front of this big crowd assembled from all over the state, retired admirals, all the guys from the VFW, the American Legion, everyone's there wearing their uniforms and their medals and looking very distinguished. And he goes up and does his shtick, and he's getting a very lukewarm reception from the audience. Who's like, what does it say? By the time he gets done to a round of very token, very minimal applause, he's realized the critical error and has decided that rather than take his bows and answer questions, he's going to rush out into the parking lot and get away as fast as he can. And he gets to his car and is rolling out of the parking. You know, the sort of guy with button-down pocket protector is rushing out. Wait, what about the merchant marine? What about the future of the American merchant marine? So none, and drives off, which is not a very amusing story, but that's why this. Are we doing something?
Yeah, no, we're good. Just keep
okay.
going. Yep.
Carry on. It's the vulture's favorite. Yeah, and this is why my talk is called "The Future of the Planet's New Merchant Marine," because really there isn't it's merchant marine. It's just, except there is. All of the races, all of the really fortunate races, have. This is really weird. What's going on? Come on,
just go and die in here. It was still stuck on the first slide.
Oh.
Oh.
No, they can still hear you.
Yeah, but the snail. I mean, come on. They missed out on the snail.
Yeah, we have to redo.
Yeah. So 26. You can see the difference. The snail. Okay. Anyway, that's the joke for those in Europe. So, thank you. Yep. Well, in 20 seconds, there's a roar of laughter.
Oh, they're seeing it right this moment.
Okay, there we go. Yes, the one joke. I'm really thrilled. The planet's new merchant marine, otherwise known as operational mobility. Folks don't know the term that well. They think logistics. They think I'm moving stuff from. That's not operational. I mean, it's mobile not that kind of operation either. Yes, C5 Galaxy. This is what I mean. Logistics, which is frequently confused with tactics, strategy. It is getting food, getting bullets to the guns. It's not about building. It's about, oh my God, my fleet's on the front lines and I've got no colonists. What am I going to do? Well, what you're going to do is when you build your fleet, you're going to assume that you're going to need colonists to go with you, and you're going to incorporate with your fleet enough stuff to supply you. Now, bear in mind, if you look through my game, I suck. In playing planets, I am awful. In talking about planets, okay, in writing about planets, I'm good. So trust me when I'm telling you. Don't look at my games, they suck. So most, I'm going to jump off the slides for a second, have common ships, like the Merlin, the neutronic refinery. And these are invaluable. Every race needs them. Every race needs to use them. Occasionally find a privateer who can get away without using Merlin. Occasionally you can find a light ship race. Maybe there's a Borg who doesn't really need alchemy. I don't know if I've ever met them. For the most part, we use them. And this is beautiful, but it's not what I'm talking about. Because unless you are insanely unlucky or ill-prepared, you don't have Merlin along with your attack fleet. You're going to send them along a little ways behind, covered. Seriously. Don't laugh at me. Okay, laugh at me. That's fine. Go charging in with your Merlin. I mean, yes, there are some people who do. Mixed with D-19s, the Merlin-class Super Dreadnought is an amazing. Anyone who has never watched a Gorby or a Biocide die to a Merlin, really, you gotta look into some of these old games. It's beautiful. Now, what I'm talking about is the more valuable common ships, the medium deep space freighter, the neutronic fuel carrier, the large deep space freighter. Almost everyone gets to build, and they are vital, but their general purpose. And also, you may have noticed these freighters don't actually have guns. So battle line, they're not all that useful. Generally then, in a decent battle fleet, and I say decent meaning none that I fielded, except on paper, you're going to account for this sort of thing. Now, when it comes to planets, we have three different concepts I'd like to deal with here. The first is currency, then control, and then we'll get into the ships again. The concept of currency, it's not really just money and minerals and fuel. Your true currency is measured more in, not so much, exactly, you need the minerals to lay minefields. You need to have the supplies necessary to set up a new starbase as soon as you've captured a planet. You need to have complete. And the true currency is actually measurable in space in your cargo holds in your fleet. It's measured in hulls and most importantly, the one true currency that a player has. People forget the rules, they look at the details. The only currency you really have is your time and attention, because you are the one if you don't have time to do your whole turn, you're screwed. Those supplies sitting back behind the fleet, they're of absolutely no use to anyone but the person who's about to conquer your homeworld. So the actual currency of logistics, of operational mobility, is your attention, being able to keep track very easily and very simply of where everything is. Okay? It is about control. Yeah.
I have a quick question. Actually, there was an article on Planets Magazine about just that. How to do turns very quickly and know where everything is, what step of development the planet are in. At some point, can you touch a little bit on what you do? Because I think all of us have their own little. They're nice, but I know towards the end of the game, the person did the So, how do you guys handle that?
Well, for me, how I handle. Oh yes, restate the question for those poor slobs in Europe who can't hear. Sorry, I don't mean to imply. Yeah, how to speed up a turn, basically. I make extensive use of notes and things. I know that my own methods are incredibly simplistic. I just heard last night that Darth Balls is insane and draws little diagrams to the edge of known space and draws on the map, and it's scary. Me, I just do notes, and I look at every item every turn. I may not, but I never use the checkbox. Eyes on every ship. I put eyes on every planet. But the big thing about that is immediately after a turn goes, look right then when the details are fresh in my mind and see, oh, well, I guess I screwed that up. I must have mistyped a friendly code again. And I correct those blunders. And then right then I move on because there's only so much hating myself I want to do in the day. So right then, once I've done the immediate stuff, a vague idea of what has happened that turn, immediately I go off and do something else and just let it percolate in my mind until 5 minutes before host time when I click through every planet and every star. There are no shortcuts. The whole point here is you have to pay attention to all the details or you're screwed. There are some things that you can do to make that quicker. There are articles on Planets Magazine with a lot of great tips. There's add-ons. There's some marvelous tools. You can do what Darth Balls does, which is insane.
But he is infrared, but effective.
Yes, highly effective. Or you can do what I do, which is spend way too much time staring at the screen and drawing lines between docs. But in my opinion, there really are no shortcuts. There is no, I don't have to look at this for 10 turns. You do. You have to put eyes on it because you never know what might happen. Shall I? Sorry. Okay. Because I can go on for hours. So the whole point of currency is to establish control because those minefields and starbase, until you have, unless you have a fleet, you can't capture stuff. But unless your fleet is backed up by colonists, unless you have money and supplies, you can slap up starbases fast to defend yourself. You don't control the space unless you can lay minefields, or if nothing, you don't have the ability to lay mine space. You just happen to be there for the moment. You just happen to own those rocks with one colonist, and someone is going to come along. Forger's going to drop colonists on you and start this horrible nastiness. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to pick on Forger. Okay, I did. I've never met Forger. He's a great guy, I know, but that one's been chewed over all the time in the feed. You really hold the territory until you truly control it, and to control it, you need defensive troops on the ground. You need starbases, and those starbases need to be defended. Which is possible because you've done everything you possibly can to get as many warships to one point as possible. That's strategy. but your strategy is not enough unless you're along with it. And that control is measured in star bases, in boots on the ground, in minefield control. I think we can go on. The secret, as I've discovered, and by the way, this is not a secret known only to me, this is just mine. And again, I am there ever. I actually do kind of suck as far as tactics and strategy. But logistics, I can do logistics. The key is in composing your beginning, is in knowing what you're going to need when your fleet sets out. So let's see what we've got. That's not quite the ship I had. And we don't seem to have the audio either that goes with it. Is it operational?
No, it's in your mode. It's on your point.
So for those of you who don't understand StarCraft, you just completely missed that reference. That's too bad.
And I went and found the audio.
Yeah, it was really great. Thank you. So I touched on the common ships that everyone that isn't horribly unlucky can build. Other races really suck, and they can't build the neutronic fuel carrier, which is too bad because it's probably the most valuable ship in the game. Some people have gone on for hours of Small Deep Space Freighter and how it's useful. The neutronic fuel carrier is a beautiful, absolutely wonderful ship because in Classic, at least, to build after the ship limit, it carries 2 engines with it without actually taking up any weight. You can move it to any starbase. You can bring along fuel if you want because it's a fuel tank. But I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned about, gee, I need transwarp engines up here in the front line where I haven't spent the money to upgrade that starbase. It's on the front line. So run that ship in, recycle it, and you got your point back. You got 2 engines. The other ships, the medium, and the medium is awesome because, it's only got 200 cargo space, but it's got a decent fuel tank. And most importantly, if it dies, you're not going to. There's no real risk here. Your enemy has expended a lot of effort getting 1 ship slot and 1 PvP off you. Big one. The large, okay, there's a little more to it. And incidentally, you're probably carrying a starbase on that thing. So when you lose that, it really sucks. But you're going to want these following behind your fleet enemy, touching them, in order to supply your drive. Because if you're not attacking, you're defending, and the logical end of defensive warfare is dying. That's Napoleon, not me. But every race has their own selection of ships, which are beautiful for certain purposes. The Feds are screwed. The Feds have the broadest, most useless ship list in the game. They build ships for everything. They have these terraformers, which they're wonders of technology. They have the Nova class super dreadnought harmless torpedo ship, but you can stack up 3 of them against a biocide. And that's strategy, which is not me. That's not what I'm doing. I'm talking about what the Federation needs to keep things supplied. The Nebula-class cruiser is the best thing because the Feds, those poor schmucks can't. They've got a couple of battleships with big tanks, but everything else has these little tiny fuel tanks. You're going to put a refinery up there on the front lines. You're always going to be short on fuel. The Nebula is great for 2 things. First, it's got a fairly decent fuel tank. If your Nebula isn't frontline fighting, it's probably going to survive the battleship battle. And so you can refuel off it. The second thing about it, that huge, you can build mines on the fly, build torpedoes on the fly. It is probably the single most important ship in the Federation fleet because of this. It supplies along with you, and that saves fuel. You could stock that sucker with torpedoes and rearm your entire fleet. And a torpedo weighs as much as the minerals it takes to build them, which are never in front of you as you attack. Honorable mention goes to the Kitty Hawk, not for its prowess on the battlefield, which It is with Missouris and Novas. But because it's a lightweight carrier that can carry enough fighters to stock a starbase, you stick them with your fleet, and if they happen to get in a battle, that's one thing. But if they don't, you can use them to stock that brand new starbase you just slapped up, and then send it back for more fighters. The Federation does, I admit I'm biased, I think they suck. But there are those of you who've won games. There are those of you who've won games with the Federation against me, so maybe I'm wrong. But there are other races, the Lizards, for example. They have their battleship, they have their great race ability of being very durable. But the key, again, with the Lizards is supply. The LCC Lizard-class cruiser is the perfect frontline supply ship. The downside is it's heavy. But the plus side, you get 2 of those, maybe 3, and you zip behind your battle fleet, you're cloaked. People can't see you. They aren't going to intercept your freighter coming in because it's cloaked. And you've just dropped enough colonists and minerals. Hey, you have an instant starbase. And that's equivalent to a biocide in battle. That is you sitting there owning that territory. The Saurian, not quite as good for a lot of purposes, but it's a lighter ship. It also has decent cargo space. And it can perform the same function. Now, these guys are also, anyone who's played Lizards or played against Lizards knows that a cargo hold full of Lizard shock troops is going to ruin your day. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about supply. I'm talking about bringing up a starbase to sit underneath your fleet as you reload torpedoes. And for the Lizards, it's the LCC, it's the Saurian. You got freighters, but so what? Now, everyone knows the Resi for the Empire of the Birds. No one ever builds the Red Wind. The Red Wind sucks. It is a complete waste, except the cargo hold is perfectly designed to restock a starbase. You bring 60 fighters forward, or you bring a bunch of minerals and cash forward. 60 fighters take a heck of a lot less space, cost you a lot less fuel. The Red Wind is beautiful because not only can it stock your Insta starbase, no one's going to snipe it. It's going to survive. You lose your whole fleet. That Red Wind is still sitting there. Completely useless, but you know. But you haven't won your opponent the advantage of taking out your supplies. And so when your next fleet rolls in and recaptures the planet again, you've got 60 fighters. They're waiting. Honorable mention to the Valiant Wind, which, you know, the Birds can build it, but why? Because it can't fight. It's actually got a tiny amount of ability on the battle, completely unlike the Red Wind, which sucks. It can't cloak, but it can actually move along with ships, and, you know, someone's going to possibly intercept it with the death spell. But they might not. It can defend itself. So, honorable mention for that. The fascists, unfortunately, have to rely on the Valiant Wind to move their fighters. They've got... The fascists, I used to think, were the worst race in the game because they have the weakest battleship known to man. It doesn't even cloak. Sitting there alongside the Crystal battleship, which also sucks, except the Crystals have web mines. They don't need to fight. The fascists, on the other hand, yeah. Against the biocide, it's going to be costly. But what the fascists do have, instead of the Valiant battleship, they have the Ill Wind, which is probably the all-around best flagship in the game. It has a huge fuel tank. It has huge cargo holds. It is a marvelous utility minefielder. Mine layer mines. It has 10 beams. This sucker is the Crystal's worst nightmare. Because not only can it stay fueled forever, it can sweep its way out of multiple overlapping fields. In there, it's along with your colonists forward to keep supplies to repair the remainder of your fleet, which just got hit by a level 6 shockwave. Gee, I wonder why. Because you're fascist. You like to build things actually yourself. It's just the way it works. Honorable mention here to the cold pane. The D7 cold pane is the probably absolute worst cloaking resupply vessel other than the Death Specula. It's got a cargo space of 100. You can't. I mean, you need a dozen starbase underneath your newly conquered planet, so it's not really useful for that. That's what you got the Ill Wind for. That's what you've got the Valiant Wind for. The D, yes, you can sneak in and drop some fascist troops and possibly steal a starbase. That's nice. That's valuable. But its beauty insofar as it's got one huge, that sucker sneaking in underneath your stack that, oh, alas, I am stuck in a crystal web field. But you've got a couple of D7s cloaked underneath that no one can see. And suddenly, instantly, you have fuel. Yeah, you probably are still going to have trouble with the crystal web field, but you're going to supply yourself a little bit longer, and that little bit is the element of surprise, which is what's going to keep you alive on the front line. Moving on from the fascists, privateers. Again, we have the Red Wing, which is beautiful because, again, carries just enough fighters to load up that Insta-Starbase. Because their battle fleet is equivalent to their supply fleet. You don't need anything other than a meteor. You can win with just meteors. I love the Lady Royale. You don't really need it. Just 8 zillion meteors and you win the game. Loki and you kill the Loki and you rob everything else. I mean, this is the privateers. But the Lady Royale is beautiful in that when you tow it along, not only does it give you instant cash, which is sometimes nice, although you can steal that from never your enemy, always your prey. Your enemy could hurt you, your prey never will. They're your food. The Lady Royale is a ton of fuel, probably formerly your enemy's fuel, which he carried on his Ill Wind because he forgot to bring poppers with him. And you just stole it. Again, you need the Red Wind to insta-stock that starbase, but the Dwarf Star, a lot of people ignore it because it's not exciting. It doesn't have gravitonics. But it can carry your starbase along with it. It's better than that 120 cargo space on the Meteor, some of which contains your enemy's supplies that you just left. Your cargo hold. It takes only a couple of these, and there, you've got enough colonists, enough minerals to insta-build a starbase, which gives you control over the space you just captured. Here, it was very expensive to take out that starbase. It hurt. So once you're there, you want to hold it. Moving on to the Cyborg. Okay, Cyborg logistics. They have the fire cloud. That's all they need. Fire cloud, other fire clouds to move with your fire clouds. It's got a great cargo fuel tank. What else do you need? You don't. I mean, yes, you've got biocides. They just fight the battles. The fire cloud is the real tool. People forget that they also have one of the most used in the game, the Iron Slave, which is perfectly sized to efficiently move fighters. The trick here is to save fuel, because it costs next to no Iron Slave loaded with fighters from one world to the next. So you have a couple of these going out, collecting fighters from mineral-rich, from cash-rich, and moving them forward to wherever your Fire Cloud hub is. You don't have to move a biocide to every planet. You don't have to jump to 16 worlds filling it up, because you have that secondary, completely useless in-battle hull. The only battle that it will ever win is against a rogue Falcon or Probe, which is nice, but you don't. And yet this sucker is going to save your life, because it will save time, which again is your main currency. It's going to save fuel, which is hard. You're a cyborg. You can get fuel from anywhere. But you can only bring it from anywhere if you still have it, if you don't burn up your stocks. So the Crystal Fleet sucks. We all know it. The Crystals do not fight toe-to-toe. That's not what they're designed to do. They have the most awesome ships in the game, which is the Emerald. The Emerald is huge. It has a vast cargo hold, which the crystals often use to lay max web fields. Any other race, the Ruby would be one of the most delightful logistic ships known to man. It's right up there with the Cat's Paw. Huge cargo hold, huge fuel tank layer. The Emerald beats it hands down. Why? Because it can actually stand in the battle line. Yes, it will die. It's just going to scratch some shields. That fight not launch those next fighters. It is the only salvation of a completely, totally useless crystal fleet. Now, I'm not counting the campaign Emperor hulls, which, of course, they are beautiful, but I don't play campaigns, so I'm not talking about it. The Emerald is the envy of every civil, and well, it should be. The Empire is the only race that sucks worse than the crystals as far as category. Ability by itself means that the Empire has no useful ships. It has the Gorby. The probe is nice. But the Empire owns 2 ships. It is the crappiest fleet known to man except for the Gorby. And in my opinion, the reason the Empire does not win at highs is it has no ships geared to operational mobility. It has no supply. Moving fighters forward is one thing, but if you can't move forward enough minerals to build a starbase, if you can't get enough colonists to instantly hold ground, you're relying on your Gorbies and your Super Star Destroyers. Super Star Destroyers are one. You move them in, you get to steal your enemy's starbase, beautiful. But you only have, what, 80 colonists, and that's if you don't bring any fighters? But you can't rely on that because, geez, what if your enemy traded for a cloaker? What if he tows your Super Star Destroyer off to a privateer and your enemy's Super Star Destroyer, which your starbases won't kill? It's a two-edged sword, and it will as often kill you as not. Again, the theme of my talk is basically sucks. However, the probe is beautiful for, obviously, it is designed for forward dark sense. That intel is the Empire's saving grace. Again, not what I'm here to talk about, though. I am concerned with more important things. It's got a friggin' huge fuel tank. If you have a fleet stranded at your line of supply, and you need that tiny scrap of fuel, you can jump it out with the probe. You got 79, 80 fuel, and the probe jumps back. And you can do it turn expensive. You're spending 100 fuel to get 80 out to the front line. But it is nevertheless a thing of beauty when you happen. I mean, and times that your Imperial fleet is going to be stranded on the front lines without fuel, well, you got no other ships, so all the time. The H-Ross is your honorable mention here. Again, lightweight. It can't fight. It's not designed to fight. It's great at taking out those marauding falcons, Jay's in. It is lousy in the line of battle. Its beauty is that it can hold 120 fighters. This sucker can sit in back, especially when you're the Empire and building these fighters for free every turn. And yes, they can move. They can transfer these fighters forward, but you don't have to because you're the Empire and you get free fighter transfer. The beauty of the H-Ross is in their logistics ship. It is providing operational mobility, power, while still in the back lines and protected. And so the H-Ross is actually one of the more powerful fleets in the Imperial fleet. The robots. I keep going on about these races that suck. You know, I know it's not true. What's this?
Which race doesn't suck?
The colonies. They rule. Yep.
Share ships with the rebels.
You very generously share some ships with the rebels, yes. And in return, you gave us the tranquility. Gee, thanks.
Great ship.
So the robots have, yes, they have their Super Mondo heavy carriers. What they don't have is anything that can carry fuel to them. They the worst supplied fleet since the Empire, which was just one slide ago, so that's not that far. What they do have is the cat's paw, which is probably one of the layers in the game. It has crap for armament. Like every other logistics ship, it's not designed to fight. You can throw these suckers in as shield scratchers, and they probably won't scratch, but they have beautiful cargo holds. They have decent fuel tanks, and they're relatively lightweight. These are your saving instrumentality, which, again, it's a robot ship. It can fight. It belongs in the front line. It has a lovely, huge fuel tank. Yes, it's all about the fuel tanks. It's all about getting supplies to the front. The other beautiful thing about it is, happen to die in the battle, you can instant supply the starbase, which again is marvelous. The robots can build fighters on the fly, and that's nice. It keeps them from sucking.
It's too bad robots never have fuel.
Exactly. And because the robots, they do have a tanker, it's the Q-tank. It is often employed to build fighters because as a fuel tanker, it sucks. It can't defend itself. It's got one fighter. What's that going to fight? It is, on the other hand, you can instead send out an instrumentality, which not only can defend itself against anything, it'll even occasionally scratch the shields on the biocide. It is also a mobile fuel tank and beautiful. The Rebels, yes, the Tranquility. For the Rebels, that's a good ship. It's almost as solid as the cat's paw. It has almost the cargo space. It has okay, maybe it has a little more. I don't remember. I never build these. I don't play Rebels that often. I like the Cobalt. But back to the Tranquility, which is nearly as good as the Cobalt. Anyway, big fuel tank, big cargo space. It is your best friend if you're a Rebel. It is the ultimate frontline mine layer. It is beautiful for, it's beautiful for supplies, beautiful for minerals, and it can protect itself. On the plus side, you don't have to rely on it because you've also got the Falcon with 5 or 6 Falcons. You can starbase anywhere. You can build a starbase behind the enemy front lines. You can steal their starbases. So why do you need logistics? Well, everyone does. You got to jump colonists forward to do a few of the nasty tasks that other races who are not lucky enough to have RGA want to do. You'll have to fuel the fleet. You're still going to have to rearm the fleet, and this, of course, is why you have the Gemini and the Sagittarius. My personal favorite is the Sagittarius, which only has instead of 400. They both, you can build fighters on the fly. That's nice. But the Sagittarius has a marvelous ability that people forget. It can enemy minefield just by flying. One mine hit, it's dead. No one's capturing that sucker. And that's 300 fighters that your enemy didn't just get. Or in the case of the Gemini, 400. Things, like all logistic ships, have crap for armament. They're not designed to fight. They have no place whatsoever in a line of battle. You know this. No one ever builds them for a battle line. Support your fleet. You're screwed. Speaking of which, the missing colonies of man, and in Capricorn, I am screwed. The Cobalt is probably the most valuable ship in the entire fleet. Yes, they have a heavy. Yes, it's all nice. It's pretty. The Cobalt can keep any fleet supplied with fuel. You get a couple of those, and you're entire just completely eliminated the need for neutronic refineries. It is beautiful. It combines this with being a utility mine layer. But everyone knows this. I don't need to tell you to go into rhapsodies about how beautiful a ship the Cobalt is. You know. What you may not realize is the Ares, which most colonial players forget. My heart, not because of its marvelous ability to generate fuel from minerals. The Cobalt can generate fuel from nothing. The Ares proactive defensive weapon you have, because it can burn up all the moly in a sector and turn it into fuel, which you're going to burn flying it around, burning up more moly, because you're being invaded and you've got to get rid of this stuff before you get hit. If you have no friends, if you can't insta-transfer off into space, if you can't just jettison everything you own, the Ares is beautiful. And strangely, no one ever built it. Also, the colonies have the Sagitt and the Gemini, which I just spoke about. These things. All of these ships from all of the 11 races, and you'll notice I haven't talked about Horror Wasp once, because I don't know a thing about Horror Wasp. That's someone else's department. The thing in common about all these ships, apart from the Kobold, apart from the Catchpot, no one builds them. You can go through the games of Masters and you don't see them. No one builds the Red Wind because it sucks. You don't want to waste a ship slot on it. But logistics ships in general are absolutely, and I believe, especially if people are paying attention and don't hate me for calling their race sucky, I believe that they are actually the future of the planet's new merchant marine. Hey, I brought in the title. Okay. Are there questions?
I noticed you didn't say anything about super transport. And yet I see most of the veteran, I call it, high-level players almost always generate one of the super transports almost right off.
Yep.
Start dragging them around, doing base builds and colony expansion. Why would you not mention that as part of your merchant?
I do not mention the super transport freighter. The super transport freighter, why didn't I mention it? I don't mention it mainly because I don't like it. It's a high-risk haul. It's very expensive if you're going to put engines on for an early game haul. It's nothing that I would use on the front line. Bear in mind, I'm not talking operational mobility. You're not going to risk your super transport freighter with your fleet unless you are fearless or hyper arrogant. And we all win most of our games. So if we're not arrogant, nothing wrong. But super transport freighter, yes, it's valuable. It's a great logistics vessel. You can haul it around with lots of colonists, carry star-based minerals. It's huge. It has great fuel tanks. But it is not at all useful for supplying a fleet because it is incredibly valuable, incredibly vulnerable. Someone snipes that, your fleet's stranded. You don't have any of your stuff. So going with a fleet, I would never carry a super transport freighter. The exception, of course, being the Cyborg, who can move around whatever they like. But you know, that's actually on the Fire Cloud, not the STF. Other questions?
It's interesting that the whole focus of this, oftentimes we think of planets in diplomacy or strategy or economy. Would you put, this is what you're focused on forward control of space. Where did you put that in those three areas? And I think the choice of how you streamline that question.
Yeah. So putting that into a lot fewer words. This is not my attempt. I put simple concepts into lots of words. That's what I do.
This is a stretch.
How does operational mobility fit in study of tactics, logistics, strategy? How's that? Oh, yes, diplomacy. We can't forget diplomacy. Because that wins as many games. This is where the lines blur. Operational mobility is the application of tactics and strategy to logistics. And the reason that I'm focusing on the control of just captured space, going back to currency, all you have is time. All you have is attention, and you have a certain number of turns. So you have a certain amount of time for your fleet to act before your enemy fleet catches up with. If you don't control the space that you're in, you're going to lose the gains that you just made. If you do control it, your fleet can keep moving. And in the time that your enemy, unless you're, yes, I'm glaring at Darth Balls. You're the representative of the board here, as I understand it. Yeah. Kill him first.
Silence.
Yeah. Unless you're fighting the board, you are going to be able to harass your enemy for a certain period of time, no more, before they react, before they assemble a fleet that, well, they just saw yours, because it just flew in and killed their favorite star base and out for blood, and they're going to send a bigger fleet after you. The enemy's fleet is always bigger. You know this. It may not be true, but before you enter battle, they'll just know that to outgun you because they saw you coming and they built their fleet. As opposed to you just sent your fleet out from your. So the key here with operational mobility is that it buys you the currency that you don't have. And that's the advantage that you have over other players. Did my rambling monologue answer your question somehow in there somewhere? Okay. Good. Anyone else?
One last one.
Yeah.
You are in, well, I got one. You are in an area where some of us never go, and that's 430 plus turns into a girls. Flies holding out in the game that long.
Okay, Capricorn War. How are minerals and supplies holding out in the Capricorn War? 300 turns ago, I stopped taxing on almost all of my planets because I knew that Ted could come along and suddenly acquire a planet with, gee, I don't know, 100,000 supplies or something. JZN is turning red, there's a reason. And so I stopped taxing. 200 turns ago, I started killing off my natives. I would provoke them into civil war and wipe them out because, again, I do not want to give an attacking enemy anything around the rim, and it hasn't hurt me in the slightest because I have these vast stocks. Every ship has 10,000 on board. Eventually, Madison will get around to robbing me. I know he will because he told me he would, and he does what he says he's going to, and it's going to hurt. But until then, I have so much money. I'm laying minefields to get rid of excess minerals, excess money. Why? Because as the colonies, my job has been to sit there and sweep web mines. I don't capture territory. When I do capture territory, it's because someone else took it for me. That's not my role in Capricorn. My role is to sweep minefields in order to maintain minefield control. Other players have slightly different experience. But the bottom line is I built 3 Merlins going in. It's going to be an insanely long game, and unless I had a crap ton of Merlins, I was never going to be able to sustain a drive. As it happens, I really only need. We blew one up and turned it into Falcons, I think, a long time ago. And I probably would have been better off with a couple extra Virgos. But my plan was, and in order to win, you need enough supply to win. So I designed my fleet, rather optimistically, to support a massive drive, to take out my natives, to chew on their flesh and hear the lamentations of their women, and I didn't. Yes, Jay?
Can I briefly speak to the question?
Yeah, do you want to get up here so you can speak into a microphone?
So you don't have to rephrase it?
Yes, but I was being generous, not selfish.
I love your generosity. So the original question was about scarcity, and the answer there is, generally speaking, we're all loaded. We're all wealthier than you can imagine, right? I looked at a planet today. I've got 9,000 minerals on each one, 3,000 supplies, and a few 100,000 meter credits.
Ted, if you're watching, that's his planet.
I'll even tell you the ID number. What we can do, local pockets of scarcity, which is why that merchant marine is so important. And so a lot of people worry about progress, and it goes in 7-8 turn chunks. That takes to lay a max minefield that breaks the mines of another max minefield to create local scarcity. And so there is a need for that merchant marine stuff, and pretty heavily. That operational ability that's sort of taken over as opposed to just the quantity of resources. Back in our home worlds, back away from the front lines, we're loaded, right? Those pockets of scarcity. So,
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And again, I would like to point out for any of my predators that are out there watching, Jayzan has planets with 9,000 minerals. I don't. I have gone almost completely mobile. And I've done it, I'm not specifically painting a target on you. That was you. I did it because I was actually afraid of being invaded by someone who would need them. It turns out they don't. Even Ted, who owns all of, what, 3,700 ships, he will never need minerals because his 3 planets have these vast stocks. You know they do. Plus he's traded, but when it comes to this stage in a game, the only currency is the ship slot. It's not even PvP. It's opening up ship slots. Because my fleet, I've got 77 planets and 92 ships. And every one of them, including the captured Swift, is absolutely vital to my war effort. Because that's all there is, and there ain't no more. Someone, who I really hope is watching me curse him out, Othram, decided to build 8 zillion Swifts and stall the queue. And I hate him. Though if I ever meet him, I'll buy him a drink, and I promise I won't poison him. Serious, I really won't. Okay, maybe a little. Are there other questions?
You actually started the ship slot.
The ship slot.
I think that's a form of currency that really wasn't highlighted in this. A lot of the ships that you list, ones that I would be trying to sneak in under the queue, or we hit the limit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're now talking about building these after you hit the ship limit, which in a lot of games, ships move a lot. So how do you go about getting these?
Okay, the building a fleet for logistics support for operation in the face of the ship limit, in the face of the highly valuable ship slot. That is invaluable currency. It's not my currency, not at this point, because I'm talking ability. But you can't divorce any single aspect of the game from any other. Tactics is embedded in strategy, is embedded in diplomacy, is embedded in logistics, come together. Actually separate. You do have to, as you point out, you have to bear in mind the ship slot when building these things. It's very easy. The robots are going to need cat's paws. The instrumentality is useful on the front line. It has a role in battles. It's not the ultimate fighting ship, but the robots, because of this nature, because all of their ships are designed to fight, because the robots have that single track of the universe. I am building warships, they will fight. Even my tanker has a fighter bay. That's how insane the robots are. Because of that, they are weak. That is actually what makes the robots weak, that they have problems with supply. The same is true of the Empire. Now, there are other people who will have other ideas on this. There's an awful lot more to it than I'm saying because I'm heinously oversimplifying. For the colonies, you have to spend kobolds. You have no other choice. If you don't, you will lose. So whether you can or not, you must. For the birds, you really have to invest maybe only 1 ship slot into a Red Wind, because it does suck as a warship. On the other hand, it's a cloaker. It has 2 tow, so it isn't absolutely horrible. And most of all, you need it so you can carry fighters forward, because even though the birds are not known as fighter and heavy carrier race, the Starbase is a heavy carrier. It's not portable, and you have to supply it. So my answer is, yes, ship slots are valuable to lose if you don't build these ships. So that makes them slightly more valuable on an individual basis. I'm not saying build a whole squadron of Red Wings. Build 1, build 2. You really don't have a choice. You must.
If I could chime in, I was going to hit exactly that point. You're not talking about very many of them, And as we all are going to let a starbase go by without a build, there are going to be times somewhere before the queue is reached that you can't build the ship you want. That's usually where I will drop in a red wind. It only requires, you know,
Yeah, it's like
a
Tech
little
3
bit
or
of
something.
expenditure on hulls. I can put Warp 7 or Warp 5 engines on it if I need to. And 1, 2, 3 times during the first 25 turns, that'll come up where there is a choice between a small deep space freighter or a neutronic or one of these logistics ships that can be dropped into the queue there. And if you're thinking about it, you actually will go, oh, well, this is where I could drop in an Ares or where I can drop in. And usually, there'll just naturally be an opportunity to drop one into the build queue somewhere in the early game. At least that's what I have done.
Yeah. To summarize for Europe, went on about how you could, sorry, went on is, that's what I do. Just told us about how you can drop in such things in your subordinate bases before the queue, when you can't build your extra rush or your extra whatever. You sneak them in. And if you can't, the beautiful logistics ships, they're cheap. So soon into a battle, if you get invaded and you're taking out that squadron of biocides, guess what? They have PvP. Yeah, it's going to. What are you really going to spend those PvP on building heavy carriers, or are you going to spend them on logistics to make your existing fleet that much more mobile and that much more effective? No, but are we good? Anything else? I am quite willing to stand up here for hours and continue talking.
They said they're gonna cover it when they're able to stream back to us.
Oh, so I got to pay attention when they're saying
Yes,
no. Looking forward to taking your questions at that point. Anything else? No? Well, thank you very much. It has been an honor and a pleasure. Very fortunate. Timed this out at 3.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. All right. Stop the broadcast at this point so that we can have separate segments for the presentations. And we're going to 15-minute break to try and figure out how to get Ikester to broadcast. I think we're going to have to do a conference call. So I need an email address. I have Ikester's. I need an email address for you guys in Europe. Not in Europe that's watching. You need to chat it so that we can invite you to the conference call in 15 minutes when we come back. If that's not clear to anybody, let us know on IM right now. And of course, we'll wait 20 seconds for the delay, and then 20 seconds more for you to write your message. It'll be on Google Meet. Yeah, there's a conference call ability there.
So you can probably hit stop.
All right, I'm stopping.
The comments will continue.
Stop it. Yeah, the comments I think should continue.